they think they need to put a front up in order to succeed when it's actually the opposite. The more authentic you are, the more you are the person that you really are, assuming you're a good person, which I think 98% of the people out here probably are that are watching this. They're trying to do some self-improvement. I think that it comes down to be yourself.
Thank you for joining us today, this episode of Bits by Bacon. I am joined today by Jed Etters, who is a lifelong realtor, and he is an author of Shut Up and Win. Thank you for joining me today, Jed.
Misty, I'm really excited to be here with you today because you know what? I've heard so many great things about you, and I think we're going to have a very spirited conversation that's going to add a lot of value for your listeners. So thank you again for having me.
I wanted to ask you, so on your one of your episodes, you said that you started when you were 15 in title, but when you actually started your own company was the year that I got my license. So I got my license in 2007.
Oh, okay, cool. So
And I was going to say, you just now look 15. You've aged very well.
Oh, thank you. It's the dark lights. I have the gray and the beard right here. You can kind of tell, but I started my own real estate company in 2005, and then I sold it in 2007 because everything went to crap. It was a painful
I got in at the perfect time.
You really did. Well, I guess it all depends on how you look at it, right? 2007 was definitely the bottom. So anything after that did great.
For sure. I worked, my broker she did a lot of property management. So I got a crash course of what I don't want to do.
And you've been selling all this time. Are you your own broker now?
I am. I got my broker's license in 2015, and then I started my own company in 2017.
Okay. That's great. So you're going to pay people to not sell real estate.
Yeah. I was just talking to a friend about that. I was like, do I want to grow my brokerage? Because right now I'm pretty comfortable. I have one other agent who is male, which is amazing. So if I meet new clients, because we get calls on our listings all the time and it's a male, I'm like, oh yes, I'm going to start a group thread with my guy. Because I try not to meet new people nowadays. I'd like to not die. I know it doesn't happen all the time, but now sadly that is a real concern.
You can't be too cautious these days, but there's some pretty good tools. Are you familiar with Forewarn?
Yes.
I love Forewarn. Sure. I look at everybody on Forewarn before I do anything with them because they'll say, hey, whatever. It's like, okay, probably a good idea.
For sure. So how did you get into coaching?
So I don't like saying coaching. I like saying mentoring. And the reason why I say this is because I feel like coaches just seems to be like this cheap term and everybody's trying to be a coach. I say mentoring because I think one is like you show up at the field where you're going to be a coach and you tell everybody what to do and then hopefully they listen. And mentoring is I'm going to show you how to do it and hopefully you can learn from me and you want to be more. I got into that because I started my own company in 2005. And then I started mentoring people just by default because I wanted my office to be successful. And then I got to a point where I'm like, I'm teaching people the same things over and over. I need to just write a book. So I wrote the book as a way to memorialize all of it and have a teaching tool that we can go through with people and teach them a lot of stuff.
So your book, Shut Up and Win, it's not just for realtors, like real estate people in real estate. It's sales learning about sales can carry over to pretty much any industry.
Yeah, everybody sells. And the majority of my experience is in real estate sales, but I also owned a tech company at one point. And so I had to go sell tech products and all of these different, but I would be willing to bet if you give that book a shot, I bet you will find a lot of value in there because it'll be things that you go, gosh, you're right. And then also for newer agents that are coming in for you, if you're thinking about growing that way, I'd have them read How to Win Friends and Influence People first, and then I'd have them read my book second.
Sounds like a plan. I did purchase it, so I did my check. I was rushing through, so I don't know when it'll be delivered, but I am excited about reading it. what is one nugget in there that you want to share that would entice someone to go purchase your book?
Oh, what is your goal? Really? I mean,
Do you have a favorite quote? Do you have so I wrote a book. My book is not real estate related. I was my personal journey, but there's a part in there that I quote John Bevere from one of his books. And it's just about being vulnerable, exposed. And it's basically allowing people you trust and love, allowing people the opportunity to hurt you. That's not the goal, but not to be closed off and not to be so standoffish with attention, with love, with. So anyway, so that was one thing that carried me through my journey. My book's about being single. And so just even just in traditional relationships, not just romantic relationships, about being close to people and allowing people to get to know the real you. So what would be one nugget from your book that stood out to you or was the inspiration for you writing the book?
hey, so good question. And I just want to commend you on being able to be vulnerable, because that's where a lot of people go wrong, is they don't actually take the time to really show who they are. They think they need to put a front up in order to succeed, when it's actually the opposite. The more authentic you are, the more you are the person that you really are, assuming you're a good person, which I think 98% of the people out here probably are that are watching this. They're trying to do some self-improvement. I think that it comes down to be yourself, right? Your question. So I just want to commend you on that, because it sounds like you went through a tough time there. And that's something that a lot of people don't get pulled out of. So congratulations on that. My journey, why did I write the book? Is that the question really at the heart of it? Why did I write the book? When I was starting my journey, I started as a very young man, and I really didn't have a whole lot of direction. I didn't have a lot of mentors, and I was struggling to find my way. And so I worked my butt off in every direction I possibly could. And whatever worked, I just did more of that. And I would try things. I would A/B test things. Does this work? No, it doesn't. Don't do that again. Do more of this. And through the process of finding what didn't work, I found what did work. And so I went through and I tested all of these things, and I figured out a lot of things that worked. And I realized that a lot of other people, for whatever reason, don't test things out. They just try to hope that one thing works, and then they become discouraged and they quit. And so I wrote the book because I wanted people to be able to learn from my mistakes, take that, and then be able to succeed. Because there's nothing more rewarding than seeing people succeed, seeing people gain financial freedom, seeing people build their confidence, seeing people reach these levels that they wouldn't have had possible had they not had a good guide or mentor to help them reach them. So that's the real reason behind the book. Was I tell people it wasn't to get rich, it was to enrich. And so I'm trying to enrich people and get them where they're trying to go.
That's awesome. And some real estate, you started in the title industry. Is that correct?
I started the title industry at 15.
And what is a title runner? What is that?
There's no title runners anymore. When I was a kid, there's these Doc Martens shoes, right? Do you know Doc Martens, the brand?
Mhm.
And they're like the toughest shoes that you could possibly get, right? They've got these huge, thick, like super thick rubber that you could never wear through, right? I wore through a pair of those shoes, completely wore through those with as much walking as I did. But back in those days, they had fax machines. I'm really dating myself. And so a title report for a house was 30 pages, 25 pages. And so it would take forever to fax. And so what they would do is they make photocopies of all of the title history of a house to make sure if you're buying it without any liens, without any problems, or if there is, you know about it. And they give me this packet, and they'd say, Jed, run. And I'd run to the real estate office and I'd be like, here's your title report. And then they would get on the phone and call people and say, oh, you know what? Jed just dropped off the title report. This is what we've got. So I was a title runner. What was that? That is something of the past.
The internet completely erased your position. So
Yeah, I mean, they just hit and send now, and then they've got it all, and then they've got links that they can just go through. It's so much nicer now, but
that's awesome.
but I'm thankful for
You've seen the good, the bad, the ugly. You've been around.
I have. Yes.
and in a more challenging market. I think Texas, even during when I first got in, we were in a bubble. So we didn't have a lot of the foreclosures and people moving and all the things until we got a big hurricane hit us, which happened. I get into real estate, interest rates are terrible, the stock market crashes, and then we get a nice big hurricane. So that was real fun.
By nice big hurricane, a devastating hurricane that took years to rebuild.
Correct.
And
Yes.
it makes
I
it even more
remember.
painful.
Yeah, I remember just it was so devastating driving through Kima Seabrook. It's an area that would be because you're in San Diego, so they have a boardwalk. It's real nice. Anyway, but driving through to meet some clients and because they needed help pulling stuff out of the house, and it was like a war zone. There was literally couches here, refrigerator there. We're driving down the street like it was a war zone. It was just insane, absolutely insane. So, yes, so I got into it. So you have been in obviously a little bit longer than I have. What in the beginning, what was your biggest challenge? Finding your groove, finding your people. What was your biggest challenge?
I think that I was really fortunate because I started in a subdivision. So I had some ready-made product to sell. And I got to meet a lot of people really regularly. I think the big challenge I had at the time when I got into real estate, I was 18, 19 years old. I looked like I was like 15 years old. I was like 130 pounds, wet and wear boots. And I would get like all these questions. People look at me and they'd be like, "Are you old enough to sell real estate?" And I'm like, and I had to take, and it was really this big information gap. And it was like, I had all of the information from working at the title company. So well, what are you looking for in a real estate agent? Do you want somebody retired, somebody that works part,
Right.
or do you want someone that's going to work their butt off, that understands all of these different things, is going to find things 3 times over before the other part-time realtor? That's it. What do you want? And they'd be like, "Oh, I guess we'll hire you." So I think that was the biggest challenge, was just getting people to get past that I looked like a little junior hire trying to sell them a house.
I love it. That's awesome. And 99% of my business is referral. I'm not one to keep up with the Joneses and do all the paid ads and the this and the that. And so I appreciate you're needing people want to do business with people that they love and that they trust and that they know. Because real estate can be learned, but relationships and building relationships and keeping relationships, that's what the sales process is about.
It's relationships. I guess all of your skills can be learned. So real estate can be
Sure.
learned, but trust is earned. And so it's one of those things where you've got these people, this is the biggest investment they're going to make in their life for a lot of people, not everyone, but for a lot of people. And they look at you and they go, do I trust this person to lead me in the right direction so that I make a great investment? And if they can say yes, then you earn their trust, right? And you mentioned a lot of really great things. You mentioned about online ads and all these things. And I tell people all the time, look, there's absolutely no problem with technology. In fact, I think technology can enhance a lot of things. But at the end of the day, what's your goal with technology? If I run ads, what's the goal?
To get new clients.
Okay, but how do I get
Brand exposure? I guess it could just, someone could want just brand exposure.
So people will say, oh, you're building a brand and you know what, you want to get new clients, but how do I get new clients really? Do they call up? You tell me in your area, because I have my opinions on this, but do they ever call up and they say, I saw your Instagram ad, Misty, and I was so blown away. I was looking for somebody that I trust. Can you come over here and sign the listing agreement right now? Does that happen?
Not for me. It's not for me. I do know an agent that does a lot of social media, so that is probably a thing for her, but for me, it is not.
So most of the time, that's not the case. Okay. And I would even say, I don't know who this other agent is, and I'm not knocking on people that do a lot of social media. I think social media is a pillar, right?
Sure.
I think it's one of the legs on a chair, so to speak. At the end of the day, anybody that's going to work with you is going to probably want to meet you. They're going to want to have a conversation. So all of the advertising, everything we do gets us to the point, and I call them doorways, right? You get to a place where you can walk through that doorway. So they see the Instagram ad, they hear your radio ad, they see your listing sign, whatever it is, and they think, you know what? I'm going to give Misty a call. And they give you a call and they're like, come take a look at my house, or here's what I'm thinking. I'm looking for this kind of property. And then what do? That's the doorway, right? You can either fumble that or you can lead the people through that doorway. And so it's all about, and this is one of the things that I talk about in the book, is how are we leading people through those doorways? Because everything we're doing is trying to get someone face to face. Very seldom, unless you have an out of town client or out of country client, maybe you meet somewhere on Zoom or something like this. But for the most part, it's sitting down with people, having a face to face conversation and earning their business.
I think that's why, for me, referrals has been my source of, like I said, 99% of my business. Because my friends, my family, my coworkers, previous jobs, like everybody's calling me and asking me questions. Then inevitably it's like, oh, by the way, do you know anybody that's looking? I can also do rentals. Would you like to be an investor? Like, it just starts a whole different conversation. Yeah.
But you're creating doorways. Do you see that though? Because you're asking the questions, right? You're saying, what do you know that's looking? And I don't know if you see this, but a lot of real estate agents, and I imagine maybe a real estate agent would be watching this. Maybe it's somebody in some other kind of business. Hopefully they get a little bit of value out of this, because it's really hard to sell a secret. A lot of times agents or people, if they're selling something, they're worried that they're going to smell like multi-level marketing. You know what I mean? By the way, can you be with me right now? You're going to be a billionaire and we need to you can sell my stuff. And we're afraid that we're going to sound like that. And I have this saying, which is, are you coming to people with a hand out, like trying to get something? Or are you coming with a hand out or hand up, right? And if you got your hand up, you're trying to give something. And that changes the whole conversation, right? Because when you're having a conversation with somebody, you're like, hey, who do you know that needs to buy or sell real estate? I need you to recommend me. You're going out, hey, I want you to know that I buy and sell real estate for a living. And if you have anybody that's looking to buy or sell, I want you to feel confident in being able to recommend me as your real estate professional. And the reason why I'm telling you that is I think I'd be doing you a disservice if you didn't know that I did that. Because a lot of people that don't do a good job on that side, and you wouldn't want to risk having someone that's not going to do the work for you or get you the result that you're looking for. So I just want to remind you that I'm here if you need it, or when you need it, because everyone lives somewhere.
Yeah. And because my business is referral, so most people, I'm going to birthday parties, I'm going to weddings, baby showers, graduations, dance recitals. So every once in a while, it'll be a referral. So it'll be someone's cousin, someone's whatever. And then it's not that. So I'm with you for 2-3 months, whatever that is, whenever we start the search or selling your home or whatever. And then it stops. I go through this withdrawal. It's like, hey, I'm in your life now. Well, so I don't have a ton of those, but it is like a withdrawal when it's over.
How do you follow up with people? So you meet these people at the birthday party, at the event, whatever the event is, right? And you seem like a really sincere, down to earth person. So you have this really good conversation, right? How are you following up after that? What are you saying to them? What do you do?
So it depends. Are we talking like I'm meeting someone different that I don't know at the
I
party?
invite you over to my cousin's brother's sister's wedding.
Gotcha. A lot of times when they're introducing me, oh, this is our realtor and our friend. That is literally how they'll introduce me. Oh, this is a friend and our realtor, or this is our realtor and my friend. And so it just naturally starts a conversation. They're like, oh, I have a question, or oh, this. Or if I hear someone having a conversation, I do try to let myself into the conversation by offering some great advice, or, oh, that's a great question, or how did you handle that? Yeah, I'm assuming your book also, Shut Up and Win, is also, we need to listen more to what people were wanting, right? And I'm showing property to this couple, and beforehand, I know all the wife's wants and all the husband's wants, and they're literally arguing about this house. And they're like, Misty, didn't she say? And I'm like, I am not in this conversation. Oh, this is uncomfortable. You're making me very uncomfortable right now. No home is going to have all 10 of yours and all 10 of yours together. We've got to piece it together. What can we do cosmetically? Those things you can do on your own. What things are like your must haves? But yeah, again, I just start asking questions and naturally it comes up because somebody's always talk about, oh, my cousin's moving, or hey, my getting a divorce, or it's just easy to get into the conversation by however the conversation started. And it's funny because I don't do it. I'm not looking for it. I'm not looking for the gap so I can input, make a comment or whatever. It literally just happens naturally. It'll be at the store. Like I've forgotten that I had a name badge on, or I dropped my purse on my business card fell out, whatever. It has felt organic. I hope that it was received organically because from on my end, it just feels organic.
I think that's the biggest trust builder you can have is being just very authentic. And that's also the most disarming way that you can be with people is when you're authentic and you'll tell them like, this is not good for you. This is good. One thing that, and I heard you talk about this couple and they're looking at homes and there's always this push and pull, right? And I always say like, you say 2 words, husband, you better say 4 to 10 words to the wife, because ultimately men typically look at homes as a place to hang their hat. Women generally, and I say generally, it varies, but generally they look at it as an extension of themselves. And so they're going to invite their friends over and they're all talking like, oh, I love this color. I love this. Guy's like, yeah, I put my hat in the closet and it fits. But here's the thing. This is what I do. I don't know. And again, the realtors that may be watching this, have a pre-buyer meeting, because and I have a whole list of all the questions that I'm going to go over with people, because, and this is, Shut Up and Win is really about listening and being strategic. That's really what it is, right? And what's great is if you do this buyer's consultation beforehand, and I tell people all the time, meet them at your office when you do this buyer's presentation or consultation. Because when you do, it signifies this is a professional situation and we're going to have a professional discussion. You guys are investing time. There's actually a statistic that says that people are 70 some odd % more likely to do business with you if they will meet you at your place of business, as opposed to a Starbucks now or something like that, right? It's because they're physically taking time intentionally to meet with you about something. And that if you add value, now it's solidifying the relationship. Okay. That doesn't mean that it's 100%. There's still people that, but then I will go through all of the questions, what they're looking for. They'll hash it out right there. I don't think this is good. I don't want to. I care more about the master closet than I do about the garage or the yard or whatever it is. Yeah. And I let them hash it out right there. And I say, guys, this is more a matter of scale 1 to 10. How important is this to you? Okay, great. And you work through that. And it's amazing. And I also give them all the pitfalls. Hey, by the way, one of the big questions that people stumble on is when you're meeting with a client for the first time is, do you have a loan? What loan do you have? But it just feels so abrupt and almost like you're insulting me. You think that I don't have money to buy this house? And so what I tell people to say is, hey, listen, are you going to be paid cash for the property? And I'm going to start off with that because I want to give them the dignity that maybe they are paying cash. And a lot of times people pop up, I'm glad you think I could pay cash, but I'm going to use a loan. And I say, oh, perfect. That's great that you're using a loan. I actually recommend that. Because I think, you can use your cash in so many other ways to make you more money. You're probably wise, going to feed what they're trying to do, encourage that. And then they feel, oh yeah, of course. Yes, I'm doing. And then I'm going to say, here's a question. Is buying power really important to you? And then is that anything that's interesting to you? They go, oh, of course. I say, okay. Here's the way that I'm going to give you the most strategic buying power possible. And that is, we're going to get you situated with a loan. And here's what I'm going to suggest, that you get approved for the maximum amount. Okay. And you get fully approved, because what's going to happen is, and you don't have to spend the full amount that you get approved for, by the way, but you'll know what that amount is and you can dial it down to whatever you're comfortable with. And I don't care if you spend $100,000 or $10 million. I don't care what it is. We want to find the best thing for you. But what I'm going to do is if you don't get approved for a loan in advance, then and you find the perfect house, because I'll find you the perfect house. Then we're going to write an offer, and they're going to say, do they have their loan approved? And you're going to say, and I'm going to have to say no, but I believe that they're going to get it. Or I could write an offer because you've been fully approved, and I can say they're fully approved. Here's their offer. Do you want to take it or leave it? And I say, which one do you think is going to give you the most negotiation power? And they go, 8 times out of 10, they just go, yes, we want to do that. And I'll also explain the difference between a loan officer that maybe specializes in refi versus purchases, which makes a big difference.
That's awesome. So right now, are you practicing? I know obviously you're still practicing real estate, but are you more focusing on your book or more focusing on your mentoring? What is your main focus right now?
Yeah, I think mentoring is really where my focus goes at the moment. I'm not out competing with a lot of brokers on an everyday level or training brokers to be real estate professionals. I do have select clients that I work with that specifically request me, and that's something that I will do. And I really want to help others reach their goals. So that's definitely top of my list.
That's awesome. I have 2 last questions.
Two last
are
ones.
probably
Okay.
that I ask every guest, and then I answer them myself. But what words of wisdom would you give your 22-year-old self? What nuggets, what something that you know now, and you're like, man, if I'd known that at 22, my life would totally be different.
I think if I looked back at myself, I got successful at a very early age in real estate, and I let my business run me rather than myself run my business. And what do I mean by that? I was doing so much business at the height of everything. I was doing 30 deals a month. I had a team of people. It wasn't just me, but, and it just ended up running my life. And that's really not a very, it's not a comfortable place to be, because you're making great money, but what you are giving up is, in my opinion today, I didn't think so at the time, but in my opinion today, what I was giving up was more valuable than what I was actually gaining in the monetary side. So I would say, I would look at myself and I would say, Jed, run your business, be intentional in the way that you're running your business, and do not let it run you.
That's a great advice. I catch myself doing that every once in a while. Because running your own business, we've got the business side, you have the relationship side, you have the financial side, you have all the taxes and all the fun paperwork that goes with just the business, not even transactions. Yeah, and keeping all that straight. That's excellent advice.
And it's really hard to do, by the way, because if you don't, you never know where the next deal is going to come from. Right. And so you're like, if I set these parameters, am I going to still be successful this month?
Sure.
And so you have to really have an honest conversation with yourself.
Absolutely. For sure. And then my last question, what do you want to be remembered? What do you want to be remembered for? What do you want your children, grandchildren, people to say, hey, he was.
You already mentioned my grandchildren. I think, you know what, the number one thing that I really want to be remembered for is, and I sincerely mean this, is being a great father. I think we do so many different things, and some people might consider success making a certain dollar amount. Some people might consider success being famous. Some people might consider all these different successes. I look at it as like, no matter what I accomplish, even if I was I'm sitting there hanging out with Taylor Swift and she's like, hey, Jed, I wish I was popular like you. If she said that to me, I would still be, and I wasn't a good father, I would have been a failure.
You're raising the next generation.
I think that's the biggest thing. What would you say?
Mine, I want to be remembered that I gave great hugs, that I was a great listener, and that I encourage people. That's kind of my gifting, as an encourager and cheerleader for everybody. So I hope that I'm living that out. I constantly check in with my husband. I want to make sure that I'm his number one cheerleader. And so, yeah, that's how I want to be remembered.
And I think, you know what, if you're conscious about those things, that means that it's important to you and you're probably making headway there. So just the fact that is your biggest goal or focus, I'm sure you're doing amazing things there. And it sounds like the people that know you and that are going to hire you to be their, I'm going to say, trusted advisor when it comes to real estate, They're going to get a very authentic person that's going to have their best interests in mind, and they're going to win. And if nothing else, one of the best gifts you can give them is a book of Shut Up and Win.
Awesome. Done.
Did you like the way I slid that in there? I was like, yeah,
I love it. It was so
let's
smooth.
throw that in there.
Love it. I thank you so much for, not that you had to get up early, but you are 2 hours away. So I appreciate you joining us today and your nuggets of wisdom for the future generations. And I appreciate you.
Yeah. And here's the thing I would say, I'm going to give a little plug, and if that's okay, I'm going to say, go to Amazon, check out the book, Shut Up and Win. If you're more of a listener rather than a reader, it's on Audible, which is something that actually went to the recording studio, did myself. Also, I like to add little bits of encouragement as well for people. So I have the Winning with Jed podcast. And also, you can find Winning with Jed on Instagram or any of those places. So that way you can get those daily doses of encouragement that are just going to spur you to mountains of success. That's the goal.
Awesome. I appreciate you. And thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Remember, everybody loves bacon. Thanks for hanging out with me on Bits by Bacon. Be sure to follow, leave a review, and send this to that friend who always wants the inside scoop in and around the Houston area. I'll see you next time with more stories, real estate talk, and a little bit of everything in between. And remember, everybody loves bacon.